All right, so now let's take a look at building our first song session. So we've got our template open, and we've updated our outputs to be whatever we need it to be. We've got any extra groups or channels added. And so now we're ready for this to be our starting point moving forward. So first thing we're going to do, just the same way we did with TouchOSC, is we're going to do save as. And I like having a folder that's easily accessible, that's got our library of songs in it. I've already got 2 songs created. We're going to create one more. And we're going to reference the BPM and the key. And we're going to look at stem naming here in a second, but there's some cool practices that are really helpful about how we're naming our stems. So I'm going to reference the artist or worship team. That is the version that we're covering. And then I'm going to reference the BPM and the original key of the stems that we're pulling in. And I'm going to save that to my songs folder. Okay. Now, there's only 4 bars in this space currently, so we obviously need more time. I've just gotten used to this section of flow clicks being at the very end of my session, so I add all of my songs at the beginning. You could easily add them after as well, so whichever is more helpful to you. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the tempo in this first few bars. So I use the master tempo automation lane. It's my preference. I know there's a lot of guys that use tempo tracks. We're going to use the master automation lane. I'm going to select the 4 bars of empty space. I'm going to hover my mouse until the automation line turns blue, and I can see the current BPM show up here. It says 66. And I'm going to right click, edit value, and we're going to go 67.5. That's going to set our tempo to 67.5. We can see that represented here. And I'm just using the A key to toggle automation on and off. So we'll toggle that back off. And now we just need a bunch of time to work with. So I'm going to do Command I to insert time, and this is bars and beats. I'm going to insert about 200 bars just to give myself plenty of timeline to work with. So you see it pushed all of my flow clicks down the timeline, and I've got space to work now. So I'm going to come 2 bars in. I'm going to use my / keyboard shortcut to create a first locator. I call it count. You can call it start, whatever you want to call it. Count off. This is our locator that's going to start the song. And so we're going to navigate over here to our stems folder. And I also like having a folder that's got all of my stems that have the same naming structure. And let's talk about that really, really quick. Because you do want to do your stem naming before you drag it into the session. So I always have some sort of indication of like the song name. So like Mighty Name of Jesus is MNOJ, Mighty Name of Jesus, The Joy, TJ. Worthy, I just picked W for some reason. You could do WOR, something to distinguish it, just because especially if you're buying stems for multi-tracks, a lot of those come with the same names, keys 1, keys 4, EG1. And so there's no distinction what song they're attached to. And so if you ended up at some point getting any kind of stems intermingled in the same folder, I've got 3 different keys to what songs are those from. Like there's no way to be able to tell based on the file name what song they belong to, what key they're in, what BPM they're at. And so it's really helpful to just create a file name that notates all of that. So a little indication of the song name. The next is a prefix of what kind of stem it is. So DR for drums, GT if it's a guitar stem, KS if it's a keys stem, VX if it's a vocal stem. That makes sure, because it sorts all the stems here in alphabetical order. And so that just makes sure that they're all grouped together in similar types, which is really helpful whenever we're dropping them into our groups. Because without the prefix, it's going to just sort them all alphabetically. So you're going to have acoustic, bass, guitar. You might have drums in a weird spot. Organ will get pushed down to the end. Like there's going to be things that are not going to stay within their instrument type. So whenever we go to drag them into our groups, we might have to like grab one at a time, and it takes a lot longer. So in this case, we can expand our groups. I'm going to start with the guide. You'll also notice in my naming structure, for all the instrument stems, I have a little underscore here, but not for the guide. That's also intentional because it makes sure that the guide is always the very first stem in the list. If I were to add an underscore, it would throw it down in the middle. And I just like to have it right at the top, easy to find, drag in. And now here I can just highlight all of my key stems and drag them in. So see how quick that was. And let's talk about that as well. When you go to drag them in, let me zoom out so you can kind of see. If I just click and drag, you can see it actually tries to stack all the stems end on end, which is not what we want. So what you want to do is while you're still holding down on the stems, you want to press the command button as well. And that's going to move them all into the subsequent tracks below. Super, super helpful for quickly bringing in a lot of stems. All right. Guitars. I don't run very many electric guitar stems, but sometimes if I'm in a scenario where I only have one electric guitar and I want them to be free to cover more like lead parts, I might leave in like a rhythm electric. So what you could do is, if you're not sure if you're going to want to use them, is just add them to the session and press 0 with them selected. Press the 0 key on your keyboard, and that'll deactivate them. So that way you don't have to go find them and drag them in. Say you're at rehearsal and it's like, hey, can we add that electric guitar stem really quick? Sure. Let me just reactivate it, pressing 0, and you can hear it. So, generally for me, when in doubt, just throw it in the session, deactivate it, and turn it on if you need it. So we'll grab the 3 drum stems, BGV, and this is, I think this is a just a single female BGV. Oh no, there are some groups in there. Okay, cool. So we'll leave that in. All right, so we've got our stems added. We can close this up. Now we want to add our click clips for our click track. So we're going to come over here to the click clips folder, and we're in 4/4, and I want to use an accented click during the arrangement of the song, and that comes into play later on. You don't have to. If you prefer unaccented, you can just drag the unaccented and then extend it out. That works just as well. I like using accented when we're in the actual song arrangement, and then unaccented for a click loop at the end of the song. So I'll zoom out so I can quickly extend that to the end of the song. Okay, so now we can go through and drop our
intro 2,
our locators throughout the rest of the song. Not sure I'm going to need one there.
build,
I'll leave it off for now. Okay, and then we can reference
intro,
what each of these are. It's going to
verse,
be verse.
chorus,
And you can, I usually type out the full names. I'm a little excessive like that. You can easily abbreviate verse, chorus. I like having the sections written out for the most part.
turn around,
I'll shorten a few of them.
verse, chorus, chorus, breakdown, breakdown,
And
2,
this is probably,
bridge,
I would probably opt to call this like a bridge interlude.
bridge, bridge, Bridge. Instrumental. Chorus. Chorus.
I know this is a little bit tedious to watch, but wanted you to be able to see the full
Breakdown.
process. Okay. And then we get to the end of the song. And this is definitely one that we want to be able to set up to potentially flow on. However, I'm going to show you this really quick. Is if you didn't want to, if you wanted to just have this, let's say this is a song that you really only ever just play, crash out, you end, and it's not really a song that you would typically spend time flowing on.
Breakdown.
We can take this IAC control clips, we can drag the stop clip here to the IAC control channel and just drop it after the stems end. So you could go there. If there's nothing really happening in the stems, sometimes I'll just make it that's a long hold. So what I would probably do is actually come here, shift click, and then again, shift click, Command Option F to create a crossfade or a fade out.
Breakdown.
So then the stems would just fade out over 2 bars. I can move the stop clip to the end and it would stop. What I don't want to do is put the stop clip where my stems are still fading out, because then we'll hear a hard stop, which is what we don't want. So that's if you wanted to set this song up to where it would just end. Okay, but we want to do this in such a way that it just rolls right into a looping click. So I'm going to take my unaccented 4/4 click clip, and I'm going to extend that a couple bars past the end of the stems. Okay, and there's a few steps I'm going to do here. We're going to look at it in a little more detail on the demonstration side, but for now, just follow along, and there is intentionality behind doing it this way. So at the very end of our click here, we're going to insert time signature change at 4/4, and then here at the breakdown grid line, we're going to switch the time signature to 1/8. Going to take our loop clip and we're going to come in here and drop it on the very, very last click. So if we zoom in here, we can see it's starting on the very last click. And then we can kind of bring the tail in. What we can't do is this and drag the front. That's not going to work, because this is transmitting a MIDI note that starts at the very beginning of the clip. And if we cut the front off, it loses that note start message, which is what triggers the previous locator command. So we have to always keep the front of the clip intact. And that's the same with the stop clip. We can chop the back off, no problem. Can't chop the front off. Okay. And then here on this grid line where the stems end, we're going to add another locator, and this is going to be our click loop. So now if we play, that's just going to loop indefinitely. So that gives us a click loop at the end of the song. Okay. And then up here, very, very top track, the song label, I'm going to click here at the end, scroll forward, shift click to the count off. I'm going to do Command Shift M, which is create blank MIDI clip. You can also right click and insert empty MIDI clip. And this we're just going to name the song. So this is Worthy. We're going to reference the BPM and the current key, which for our song session, this is always going to match the key of the stems. Once we start getting into building our sets, we'll see how this comes into play. If we were to want to pitch this to a different key, then this name here, this key referenced here, tells us what key we're pitching from, which is important if we want to go like up to the key of G. We know we're starting in E flat. we're going to need to come up 4 half steps. So we would select all of the stems that are melodic stems, enable warp, and pitch up 4. After we did that, I would not change the name of this. I would come up here and change the name here. So that I know if I hit play right now, of course I do this to all the stems, not just that first one. But that would just tell me just a quick visual reference. If I hit play right now, I'm going to be hearing the key of G. So that's what I'll do in our full service sessions when we're building those out for our services. But for the song session, we want everything to stay in the original key. We want this to reference original key. Okay. So song arrangement. We want to do the same thing here. We're going to select the full length of the song. Command Shift M. You're going to insert a blank MIDI clip. Let's open this up. And then here, you'll notice right now, obviously it's the full length of the song, but we want to chop this up to match the length of the song session. So I'm going to drop the playhead at every single locator. I'm going to hit Command E, which is the separate command. And now it's going to make this a shorter, chopped up clip. So I'm going to do that at every locator line. And this part here, we're gonna enter the same names as our locators. And this might seem redundant and unnecessary right now, but this is going to play a huge role when we're building our sets out for our services. So trust me, this is a process that is well worth a little bit of extra typing right now. Okay, breakdown I like to color red, and click is always that same yellow. Okay, so I'm going to come 8 bars past the end of the click loop, and then I'm going to shift click all the way up to that first flow click locator. And I'm going to delete times. The command for that is Command Shift Delete. And that's going to chop out all of that extra space in there that we don't need anymore now that our song's in there. Okay, so then the last step, I'm going to go ahead and collapse all these groups. The last step is we want to place our playhead at the very beginning of the session. And then we're going to shift click 4 bars past the song, and then I'm going to hit Command L twice, and that is going to place a loop bracket, the full duration of the song, of that selected area. It's also going to turn loop on, which I don't need, so I'm going to press it again, Command L, to turn loop off, but it keeps that loop bracket in place, which is what I want. And then last step is I'm just going to select this, the header of this top clip. I'm going to hit save. And that's going to save it in this current state. And by selecting this song label clip that starts at the very beginning of the song, it's going to move the playhead right to that count off locator. So this session is basically ready to open and hit spacebar to start it very quickly. So if this was a song that we needed on the fly and wasn't in our normal set, I could just open this song session and literally hit play. And because my global mappings are already there too, I can either hit spacebar to play or I can hit play on my iPad. Even if I don't have this song in my iPad template, again, because the play and stop on the iPad are global controls, I can still hit play and have control on my iPad or the Nano Control play button. So that is what it looks like to build a song session. And from there, we can move into building our sets for services.